X-Men Dark Phoenix stars Sophie Turner, James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence, Nicholas Hoult, Ty Sheridan, Alexandra Shipp and Jessica Chastain. The movie is written by John Byrne, Chris Claremont, Dave Cockrum and Simon Kinberg, based on the X-Men comic characters created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Cinematography is by MAURO FIORE and music is by Hans Zimmer. X-Men Dark Phoenix is directed by Simon Kinberg, a man mostly known as a writer and movie producer, but who also directed the BLURRYMAN episode of The Twilight Zone. What's the story? Sophie Turner provides the narration for the opening titles, in which she poses the question, can we evolve? In 1975, an 8-year-old Jean Grey, played by Summer Fontana, is on a road trip with her parents. John Grey is played by Scott Shepherd and Elaine Grey is played by Hannah Anderson. Jean uses her telekinetic powers to switch stations on the radio, to the annoyance of her parents. Jean also has telepathic powers. When the voices inside her head get too much for her, Jean calls for quiet. This command puts her mother to sleep and the car she is driving swerves into an oncoming truck. While Jean is protected by a force field that she instinctively constructs around her, her parents are not so lucky. Her mother dies instantly and her father sustains major injuries. Professor Charles Xavier, played by James McAvoy, meets with Jean at the hospital. Jean is told that her parents are dead, but Xavier invites Jean to come and live at his school. There is a discussion about mutant powers. Xavier cleverly uses a fountain pen as an analogy. He gives the pen to Jean as a gift. He then tells Jean that what she decides to do with the pen is up to her. She could draw a nice picture or poke out someone's eye. Xavier sees Jean's powers as a gift, and what Jean decides to do with them is up to her. Jean asks, "Do you think you can fix me?" Xavier replies by saying, "Jean, you are not broken." In 1992, the space shuttle Endeavour is sent into space on a mission, but it runs into trouble when it encounters a solar flare. The TV news reports the emergency, and the American president, played by Brian Darcy James, calls Xavier on a special hotline to ask for help. The X-Men assemble in the hangar beside the X-Jet. The team consists of Raven, played by Jennifer Lawrence, Hank McCoy, aka Beast, played by Nicholas Hoult, Jean Grey, now played by Sophie Turner, Scott Summers, aka Cyclops, played by Ty Sheridan, Peter Maximoff, aka Quicksilver, played by Evan Peters, Kurt Wagner, aka Nightcrawler, played by Cody Smith-McPhee, and Aurora Monroe, aka Storm, played by Alexandra Shipp. In space, the shuttle is spinning around in a debris field, with a nasty looking dark energy cloud approaching, not a solar flare. The X-Jet arrives. Raven is in charge. After Cyclops blasts the shuttle with his laser beam eyes to stop it spinning, Nightcrawler and Quicksilver teleport across and drag back all the astronauts. However, the shuttle commander is still in the airlock, and she needs saving. As the dark energy cloud has almost reached the shuttle, Raven considers the mission is too dangerous and she wants to abort, but Raven is overruled by Xavier and Nightcrawler teleports Jean over to the shuttle so she can use her power to keep the shuttle together longer. Nightcrawler teleports the shuttle commander over to the X-Jet, but there is not enough time left to save Jean. Jean stays on board the shuttle and gets engulfed by the cloud. Jean uses her powers to suck all the energy inside her, which saves the X-Jet from the cloud. A short time later, Nightcrawler picks Jean up, who is miraculously still alive, and the X-Men return home. Back on Earth, the X-Men are treated like heroes by a cheering crowd. People wave banners and some have their faces painted blue to match their X-Men heroes. It is good to see that mutants are appreciated for a change instead of being despised. Back at the school, Raven tells Xavier off for putting everyone in danger. She accuses Xavier of risking mutants to save humans for the sake of his ego. She also comments that the X-Men name is outdated, and she suggests they call the team the X-Women instead. Jean is examined by Beast in his laboratory. Not only does Jean feel fine, but her powers are also stronger than they ever were before. Later, Cyclops tells Jean that he was worried that he nearly lost her. Jean replies by saying, "I will always come back to you." Raven meets with Beast in his lab. She thinks Xavier has changed, and she wants Beast to lead the X-Men with her. They seem to be a couple now. Later that night, a group of humanoid aliens land in the woods. These are not friendly aliens because they kill some people at a dinner party and assume their identities. The alien leader is called Vuk, played by Jessica Chastain. Meanwhile, a party is going on in the grounds outside Xavier's school. Jean has a bit too much to drink and she begins to feel funny. Her dark phoenix powers rise to the surface of her skin like tiny ripples of lightning. Unable to control her power, Jean sends out a blast wave that knocks the students off their feet and snaps some trees. Xavier senses that Jean is in trouble and he leaves a charity gala where he was the president's honoured guest. As Xavier cannot read Jean's mind anymore, he uses Cerebro to hack in. Looking at a visual representation of the inside of Jean's mind, Xavier admits to Raven and Beast that he had to make adjustments to Jean's mind in the past to keep her stable. Whatever happened to Jean in space has torn down those walls he put in her mind. When Jean wakes up, she throws Xavier out of her mind because she is now more powerful than Cerebro. Jean has unlocked some of her past and she knows that her father is still alive. Jean tells Cyclops that she is going to see her father. Cyclops wants to go with her, but Jean is worried about not being able to control her power, so she knocks Cyclops unconscious with telepathy. Somewhere in the city, Vuk meets with the other aliens, who are presumably already living on Earth and posing as humans. An alien called Jones, played by Atto Asando, tells Vuk that the dark energy they are after has been absorbed by Jean. Vuk wants to use this energy to resurrect their race and build a new world of their own on Earth, which will result in the extermination of the humans. Jean arrives at her father's house, who is still living in the original family home. John Gray is shocked to see his daughter, and is obviously uncomfortable in her presence. When her father goes to fetch a glass of water, Jean notices that there are no pictures of her on the walls. "Why didn't you come looking for me?" she asks her father. Jean reads her father's memories, and she relives the car crash that killed her mother. She also witnesses the conversation between her father and Xavier, in which Xavier agrees to take Jean in. The X-Jet arrives. Xavier and the X-Men get out. Jean is bitter for Xavier telling her that her father was dead, and she accuses Xavier of using her for her powers. Cyclops interrupts by reminding Jean that she agreed to always come back to him, and he asks Jean to come back to him. In a case of terrible timing, 3 police cars arrive. The noise irritates Jean and she lashes out. Her powers bash and crush the police cars, but I don't think any of the police are injured badly. In response to this, the X-Men go on the offensive. Unfortunately, no one can match Jean, and several houses are damaged as a result. Quicksilver tries to get the jump on Jean with his super speed, but she can sense him coming. Jean knocks Quicksilver aside, which leaves him battered, bruised, and effectively sidelined for the rest of the movie. Raven tries to reason with Jean, but when she gets close, Jean has another uncontrolled power explosion. Raven is sent flying and is impaled on some wood. When Raven dies, Jean is devastated. Jean flies away. The X-Men return to Xavier's school. Beast feels guilty because Raven wanted to leave the school, and he didn't let her. Beast also blames Xavier for Raven's death by previously blocking Jean's memories. Beast tells Xavier that the students don't need protection from the rest of the world, they need protection from Xavier. Vuk and Jones turn up at Jean's father's house. They interview him while posing as FBI agents. When Jean's father does not offer information quickly enough, Vuk tortures him with her trademark alien tummy twist technique. The next day, Jean turns up at a small island sanctuary for mutants run by Eric Lencher, aka Magneto, played by Michael Fassbender. As there are no TVs on the island, Magneto does not know the recent events involving the X-Men or Raven's death. Jean wants advice on how Magneto managed to stop hurting people because she can't stop hurting people. A fellow mutant, Celine Gallio, played by Kota Eberhardt, interrupts to say 2 army helicopters are inbound. An army ranger captain, played by Danny Blanco Hall, demands Magneto hand Jean over, but Jean has other ideas. She destroys one of the helicopters and attempts to crash the other. Magneto tries to stop Jean with his own powers, and there is a tug of war over the remaining helicopter. Eventually, the Rangers get back in the helicopter and it flies away with a huge push from Magneto. Magneto is afraid of what will happen if more soldiers come to the island, so he tells Jean to leave. Jean's actions have hit the TV news, and human-mutant relations have taken a huge step backward. Xavier's hotline to the President is disconnected, and there are calls for mutants with significant powers to be interned. Jean drowns her sorrows in a bar, but there is no danger of anyone recognising her because she is using her powers to convince everyone that she is an old man. Vuk arrives. She is not affected by Jean's mind control powers because she is an alien. Vuk offers Jean some answers if she goes with her. Hank decides to lead the X-Men and he takes the X-Jet to Magneto's island. Beast tells Magneto that Raven is dead and that it was Jean that killed her. Beast asks Magneto's help to kill Jean. Vuk takes Jean to a house in New York City. Jones and some other aliens are there. When Jean goes upstairs with Vuk, the aliens talk amongst themselves. It is clear that they intend to use Jean's powers or kill her and take it for themselves. Vuk produces an illusion of the galaxy for Jean to see. She claims the cosmic force that is now inside Jean once gave life to the universe. It also consumed Vuk's homeworld and everything else it came into contact with, until it found Jean. Vuk suggests that once Jean is able to control her power, she will be able to create whole new worlds. When Xavier learns that Jean is in New York, he assembles his depleted team. Using Xavier's assistance, Nightcrawler is able to teleport Xavier, Cyclops and Storm to a park outside Vuk's house. Xavier and the X-Men arrive just as Magneto, Beast and Selene are about to go in the house. Also on Magneto's team is another mutant called Ariki, played by Andrew Stelling. Ariki has living dreadlocks, which can be used like whips. Xavier tries to persuade Magneto and the others not to fight, but there is no stopping them. The fighting starts in the street. As a result, property and passing vehicles are damaged. The fighting is made more difficult because Selene also has some mind control ability, which prevents Xavier from taking control. Eventually, Magneto pulls an underground train up through the sidewalk for no reason whatsoever, and then walks in through the open door to Vuk's house. Magneto tries to kill Jean with some twisted metal, but Jean is able to stop it with her powers. Jean crushes Magneto's helmet around his head and then breaks the helmet into pieces. Even though Jean could easily kill Magneto, she doesn't. She just hurls his body into the street. Now it's Xavier's turn. He tries to reason with Jean instead. When Vuk tells Xavier that Jean is not his little girl anymore, Xavier realises that Vuk is not human or a mutant. Jean operates Xavier like a puppet and makes him walk up the stairs to where she is standing on the balcony. In his defence, Xavier replays some of his memories for Jean to see. These are memories of Xavier caring for Jean when her own father would not. This calms Jean down. Jean decides that she does not want her new power and asks Vuk to take it from her. A fantasy light show begins as Vuk absorbs Jean's powers. However, Xavier is concerned that Vuk is killing Jean. Vuk casually remarks that their lives mean nothing to her and the Earth will soon be hers. When Xavier separates the two, Jean is knocked out and Vuk is blasted through the ceiling and disappears, and it looks like she has retained some of Jean's powers. Meanwhile, the military has arrived and they, somewhat miraculously, detain all the mutants by putting electronic collars on them. How this manages to prevent each mutant from using their powers is a mystery. All the mutants are put on a train bound for a mutant containment centre. Because Jean is so important, she gets a carriage to herself, while everyone else is locked up together. Xavier admits to Beast that he was wrong to alter Jean's mind when she was a child. Xavier then tells Magneto that Vuk will be coming back for the rest of Jean's power, and once she kills Jean, Vuk will kill everyone else as well. Shortly after this, the aliens drop onto the train from a bridge. The guards try and kill them, but they seem to be immune to bullets. They are also super strong. 2 helicopters accompanying the train are destroyed. Eventually, the guards free the mutants so that they can join in the fight with the aliens. Jones tells the mutants to step aside because they only want Jean, but the first mutant to stand in line to protect Jean is Beast. Yes, Beast, the mutant that started the crusade to kill Jean in the first place. The fighting starts again. All the mutants get to showcase their powers in the fight, and most of the aliens are knocked off the train. Ultimately, Magneto gets rid of Vuk and the rest of the aliens by crushing the rear carriage of the train and letting it fall behind. Magneto raises the remaining train carriages into the air and flies them away. Jean had remained unconscious and restrained by an electric collar all during the fight. Jean wakes up and removes her electronic collar. Jean finally accepts that what Xavier did in the past was out of love to protect her. Jean then fights the aliens who have caught up again and turns each one of them into dust. When Jean tries to turn Vuk into dust, this also affects Cyclops, although I'm not entirely sure why this would happen. Vuk tells Jean that if she dies, all the mutants die too. She mocks Jean by telling her, "Your emotions make you weak." However, Jean replies by saying, "My emotions make me strong." Jean then flies into the air and destroys Vuk far away from the mutants, so they are not affected. Jean then transforms into a ball of energy and disappears. Some days, weeks or months later, Cyclops replaces the sign on Xavier's school with a Jean Grey school sign instead, and the new principal of the school is Beast. Over this, Jean provides narration to say, "I know who I am now. I have evolved beyond this world." Jean proves her point by showing us a fiery phoenix in the sky. Meanwhile, in Paris, Xavier is enjoying his retirement by having a coffee outside a street cafe. Magneto arrives with a chessboard and asks for a game. He also invites Xavier to come and live with him as a thank you for his eternal friendship. Issues. Having watched the movie, I now find the trailer to be misleading. The trailer suggests that Jean turns evil, which she never does. When Xavier remarks, "She'll kill us all," he is talking about the alien called Vuk. There is also a line spoken by Jean in the trailer along the lines of, "When I lose control it feels good." This line is not spoken by Jean in the movie, at least it was not in the version I saw. My main issue with this movie is the fact that it tries to set up an origin story for how Jean Grey became the Dark Phoenix. The problem is, Jean Grey already became the Dark Phoenix in the previous movie, X-Men Apocalypse. It was Jean Grey that destroyed Apocalypse, the most powerful mutant of all time, with her Phoenix powers. By default, this makes Jean the most powerful mutant of all time, so she didn't need to have any extra energy sucked into her from a cosmic cloud of radiation. The second biggest issue I have with this movie is the almost flippant way in which the characters are treated. Xavier is portrayed as a glory hound / fame seeker, which he has never been before, and Beast is turned into a vengeful killer, which I find highly disrespectful to Beast's character. Also, having Beast come out and say that the students need protection from Xavier is something the real Beast would never say. While there might be an argument that Magneto might want revenge on Raven's killer, this is unlikely for two reasons. One, Magneto gives Jean a long speech about how he has learned that seeking revenge doesn't solve anything. And two, when Jean visits Magneto, he can see that she is devastated about what she has done. Anybody who saw what happened to Raven will know that Jean did not kill Raven on purpose, including Beast. Jean was simply not able to control her powers. And isn't that supposed to be the whole point of Xavier's school in the first place? Young Jean knew she killed her mother. That is the main trauma of Jean's life. Knowing her father wants nothing to do with her is adding insult to injury, but it hardly seems necessary for Xavier to protect her from this truth. Why is Cyclops asked to blast a space shuttle thruster with his laser beam eyes? Doesn't that sound dangerous? Doesn't that sound like something you would do if you wanted to blow up a space shuttle, not save it? How does the X-Jet manoeuvre in the vacuum of space when it only has jet engines, which require oxygen to work? X-Men Apocalypse is set in 1983. This means 9 years have passed since then because this movie is set in 1992. Are we expected to believe that Quicksilver has not told Magneto that he is his son in all this time? I say this because the two never meet or refer to each other in this movie at all. They remain strangers to each other. Jean's excuse to go and see Magneto for advice is weak and contrived. Allegedly, Jean wants advice from Magneto on how he managed to stop hurting people. But Jean's situation is totally different from Magneto's. And Jean knows this. Magneto never had a problem hurting people because he can control his power. Magneto chose to hurt people. With Xavier's help, Nightcrawler is able to teleport everyone to Jean's location. If this can be done, why didn't Xavier and Nightcrawler go and save the astronauts from the space shuttle themselves? When the fighting started in New York, why didn't Xavier knock everyone out or freeze them with his power straight away? All the X-Men would have to do would be to concentrate on getting Magneto's helmet off so Xavier could freeze him too. No one is going to believe that Selene's mind control powers could in any way rival Xavier's. The concept of the electronic collar was ridiculous. The idea that the military could manage to get the collars on the mutants in the first place is a stretch of the imagination. But the fact the collars could nullify all types of mutant powers, including Jean's, is ridiculous. Review. X-Men Dark Phoenix is a lacklustre and slightly disappointing instalment of the X-Men franchise. The plot is contrived, the character motivations are inconsistent, and the alien baddies are an afterthought. On the plus side, the acting is good, especially Sophie Turner, the music is okay, and the cinematography looks fine. My rating, 83%.
Hi, this is Mike Kendall, and thanks for watching my video. I'd like to know what you thought of this movie. Was it a hit? Was it a flop? Let me know your thoughts and rating in the comments section. You can also tell me what other movies you'd like to see reviews for. Please like and subscribe, and remember to hit that notification bell for all my new videos. Sharing these videos on Facebook and Twitter would help me out a lot. I'd sure appreciate it. Don't forget to check out the other videos on my channel. We're adding more all the time. I'm off to see a movie. You have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.